We have a special guest with us. We have Robert Hanna, who is doing LinkedIn audio. And, we're also fascinated with that and want to learn more about it. And he's been hosting these town halls every other week. And, we're just curious to know more about this. So, Robert, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much. Once again, I've really enjoyed listening in and learning more about Twitter, as this is a platform that I'm keen to start using a lot more. I must confess, it's not been of recent times, but I fully appreciate and see the potential of this platform. So LinkedIn has always been my home, but I've just really enjoyed it. So thanks for welcoming me into your community.
Oh, you are so welcome. So we were definitely excited when we kept hearing that this LinkedIn audio was coming. And then we know it's in beta now with some, we've heard about some different people hosting, but, we've been hearing about you hosting these town halls, and we're surprised that LinkedIn is not doing that. But I'd like to know more about like your background, how you got started, and what made you decide to start doing these town halls.
Sure, yeah. So good evening, everybody from the UK. So I'm based just outside of London. Day to day, I own a legal talent solutions and content creation firm. So we're focused all around community. It's called KC Partners. I'm also a podcaster myself. So we're sponsored. We run the Legally Speaking podcast, and we're sponsored by an organization called Clio, who are quite prominent on Twitter. They're a large legal tech provider, and we've managed to scale that to the top 1.5% globally across 3,500 cities. And I'm a really big community builder, not only in Web 2, but also in the world of Web 3. I'm really passionate about trying to educate people as much as possible when it comes to all things Web3. With regards to LinkedIn and my journey with the platform, historically, I've always come from a recruiting and talent perspective. So naturally, I started LinkedIn on where LinkedIn really first started, where it just used to be a very basic resume style platform. And it's changed a lot significantly over the years, as many of you will know, and they're rolling out feature after feature to compete with the likes of Twitter and various other platforms that are out there. And so, my journey has progressed. I'm now in the sort of top 1% as part of my social selling index score on the platform. I've been voted as a LinkedIn Rising Star and really immersed myself into the platform more and more, and how the whole LinkedIn audio journey came about. And this is a tip for anybody who's interested in LinkedIn. LinkedIn have really been hiring a lot of what they call LinkedIn creator managers. And their job is to really identify creators and help them grow their personal brands, help them grow their communities, and give them early access to the latest resources that are out there. So I have a very great relationship with my creator manager based in the UK. And because I consistently post and stick within my lane and have a niche, which is legal, he very kindly gave me access to the LinkedIn audio, through which I became a beta tester, which the initial run, I think there was only a couple of hundred of us. And why am I so interested in LinkedIn? Just to give some context for people who may be less familiar with the platform, LinkedIn has over 800 million members. Admittedly, not all of that 800 million are active, but it has a reach across 200 countries. There's over 57 million companies registered on there. I personally have found it the best platform to find key decision makers, the platform that could reach nearly 70 million key decision makers. And according to, I believe, Q4 of 2021, it had nearly 4.6 billion visits. So the power of LinkedIn as a platform, for me as somebody who's sort of in entrepreneurship, business, B2B, all of that good stuff, I really, really see the huge potential. And I love the fact now that they're really turning their attention to content creation, supporting creators, and humanizing the workforce a lot more to encourage people to build out their own professional brands, but also to bring a more kinder, more collaborative community. So how it all happens, I built the relationship with the creator manager, part of the first initial 200, and I was just surprised because when LinkedIn rolled it out, there was no meaning. So I'm pretty well versed in social audio. I have quite a large following on Clubhouse, and I saw that Clubhouse would run their town halls that many of you would know. It's less of a thing over here in the UK. It's more of an American thing, definitely, town halls. It's not so much what we do over here. But I saw how powerful they were. We're giving the community a voice, listening to people, taking feedback, and going away and then implementing that. So I really just came up with the idea, pitched it to the beta testers. We're in a private group on LinkedIn. There's about a few hundred, as I mentioned, saying, hey, I think we should do this. And LinkedIn said, sure, run with it. And that's sort of how it happened, really. So it's a very community-led approach. I've been consistently running them now since January of this year, once LinkedIn Audio was released. We started every Sunday, but because there's only so many features, so many things that you can look to sort of break as part of a beta test, we want to break it as much as we can, because obviously try to make it the best thing possible. We're now making it every other Sunday, so we run it bi-weekly. So the next one will be the following Sunday, and yeah, it's really an initiative which is about an hour long. I share the latest updates from all of us beta testers with the community. I let people know what LinkedIn is working on, what the roadmap is. We also allow people to come up and give a shout out to their events and their rooms, because discoverability, and that's maybe something we'll talk about a little bit more when we go into the features and likes and dislikes of the platform, is still not quite there. And people are welcome to share their feedback. And then every Sunday I consolidate all the feedback and share that with the product team at LinkedIn, and they put that into their roadmap, and they sort of give us some visibility, perhaps not as much as we'd like, on when those are going to be implemented. But just one thing I would also say, I was very kindly invited to LinkedIn's head office in Dublin the other weekend to meet with the product team, and I said to them, what is the roadmap for LinkedIn and LinkedIn Audio? And they said this is one of their most pressing and most important features that they want to get right, because there's still a little bit of frustration amongst the LinkedIn community that it still is only in beta form. But as a lot of you will know, and particularly if you're used to Twitter, it's not like a Clubhouse. It's not a 1 to 2 year old business. They're building on lots of old technologies. They're trying to move a large machine. So trying to onboard potentially 800 million users to LinkedIn Audio with all of the features and all of the requests, and get it 100% right with all the safety considerations, legal considerations, and everything else that go with it, and making sure that it has an edge or is competitive to other products out there, is not an overnight job. But I'm super excited, and happy to give you some more sort of insight specifically on LinkedIn Audio, if that's helpful.
Well, you are a great speaker. You just shared tons of stuff to kind of enlighten us on what you're doing over there and how it got started. I love it. And I would definitely like to know, what do you like about LinkedIn Audio? What do you dislike? And any of my co-hosts, if you guys have questions too, let's bombard them with it, because we want to know more about LinkedIn Audio. So just start with your likes and dislikes.
Sure. So I think I'll try and make it so maybe what some of the differences may be here to Twitter. So one thing I really liked, and I'm a podcaster, and as you know, Madeline, unfortunately I'm on the move at the moment. Otherwise, I'd be tuning in through my desktop to do a LinkedIn Live audio, because that's one of the great features. You can switch between desktop and mobile very, very easily, and it plugs into my Rodecaster mic, and so the sound quality is excellent. So I really like the fact that there's a desktop version on top of the mobile version. I also like the sound quality. I think the overall audio quality is great. Another feature that I particularly like is there's a pre-live room, almost like a green room. So let's say you are trying to organize speakers. Sometimes it can be a bit of a mad rush, particularly if you folks are used to running Clubhouse rooms. I'm not sure if the feature exists on Twitter, so forgive me, but it's always good to have that 15 minutes before to sort of have a behind the scenes chat. You can do that in a pre-live room. You can test your mics. You can make sure everyone's sounding okay. You can suggest the agenda or set the agenda. So having a pre-live, admittedly at the moment it's only 15 minutes. We'd actually like that to be a little bit longer, just because sometimes people would like to do a little bit more pre-planning. Just like here on Twitter Spaces, people really enjoy the emojis. I think it's really important that you're able to engage the audience. And so the emoji reactions is a great way if you're trying to poll a conversation or keep the conversation engaged. The utilization of emojis has been really well received. It's also a great feature in terms of being able to exponentially increase your reach. So what do I mean by that? What you can now do on LinkedIn with LinkedIn Audio events, once you've scheduled an event, under your profile on LinkedIn, there's now the option for those who have creator mode on to have a URL link. So if everyone is welcome to follow me, by the way, on LinkedIn if you'd like to do so. It's just Robert Hanna, so you can look at my profile to get a sense of what I'm talking about. But on your profile, there is an opportunity for you to put, basically, it could be a lead magnet, it could be a consultation, it could be anything, but it also could be your latest LinkedIn live audio event, which is super cool because that's a great opportunity for you to then market for people who are directly visiting your profile, your upcoming event, on top of putting that in your featured section on your profile. So I think there are a couple of powerful things that LinkedIn have incorporated that also make it easier for people to boost their numbers. I also like the fact that it easily links to your calendars and can be sort of included into your calendar. And I just like the whole fact that LinkedIn is trying to humanize the workplace a little bit more. Let's switch to some of the dislikes, though, because nothing's perfect, as we know. So there's there's quite a few urgent things, and this is where there's a slight frustration. Firstly, there was, like with all new things, shiny new toys, there was mass excitement. LinkedIn's moving to LinkedIn audio. It's going to be amazing. It's going to have absolutely everything, and it's going to crush everything out of the water. And hopefully it will do at some stage, but at the moment it needs to really focus and double down on these key features that are missing. Number one, there is an unable to have any co-host. So like you're hosting today, Madeline, you have co-hosts. It's so good, particularly when you have large rooms, because you may be wanting to speak in the back channels or coordinate or just be able to share the load, or have someone who just invites speakers up to the stage, or someone who can, help moderate the discussion. So currently it's only one host that's in charge of opening up the event, closing the event, inviting people up to stage, moderating the discussion, checking the back channels to do all of the DMs that might come in and everything else. So at the moment, that needs changing. So we've requested that there's the option to have multiple hosts or co-hosts. The other missing feature that's super important is, and lacking, which we're obviously doing right here, right now, is recording. So there's no recording feature on LinkedIn audio right now, which again, for podcasters, and Madam, I love that you talked about, contest repurposing, and you just absolutely love it. Of course, people would want to make sure that they can repurpose snippets, bite-sized audiograms, you name it, redistribute it. That currently doesn't exist. For me, one of the other biggest bugbears that's actually affecting my performance on LinkedIn now in terms of my content creation is the way that you schedule an event. So currently, because LinkedIn is calling these LinkedIn Live audio events, you have to set up an event, which is fine. But in order to set up an event, that means that you have to actually do a LinkedIn post. And the problem with that, LinkedIn does not like people who do multiple posts in one day. It affects the algorithm. And also, event posts give you very little reach. So for me, because I have a podcast and I have other assets that I want to distribute in terms of content, I look at the WAV strategy, written audio, video, I have planned content. And unfortunately, because I have to schedule these events and post them, that's killing my other content as a creator on the platform. So we've requested that you can set up an event but not have to post to affect your other pre-planned content. It's a real bugbear. The other thing is you can't set up reoccurring events. So let's say this is a weekly room and you want to hold it every week. LinkedIn, we've requested, is just a simple weekly recurring event that happens same time, so people know when it is, what time zone it is, when it's happening. So that's another thing that's missing. I mentioned that the desktop version is good. The desktop version is good, but it's not great. What I mean by that, it's a very tiny screen. So the screen of the desktop, you would imagine, you would have thought that you would have been able to expand it across the whole of your page so you could see who is basically in the room. It's like now on your phone, you can only see a certain number of people. You have to scroll up and down. One of the benefits I would have assumed of having a desktop version would have been able to see more people in the room. So you can, as a host, as you would do, Madeline, if you see key people of influence or people you're keen to network with, you would shine a light on them. You would welcome them to the room. You'd say some complimentary things about them as they'd enter. All of those little 1% touches that really make a difference when you're trying to sort of moderate a discussion and make people feel warm and cozy in your room. The next thing, which is really lacking, is discoverability. So this is where, if anyone, just out of interest, was anyone familiar with LinkedIn stories? If you're a LinkedIn person, does anyone remember LinkedIn stories? Just give me a sort of any form of reaction if you did. Okay, interesting. So LinkedIn stories came and went. But what LinkedIn should do and is thinking about, please don't quote me on this though, folks, it hasn't been confirmed, but following my trip to Dublin when I was at their head office, it might have been suggested, is much like you have with Twitter Spaces, it's friction free right now with Twitter. So you can go onto your Twitter, you can go to your homepage, and you can see which spaces are happening at the top. Admittedly, there may not be ones you're 100% interested in. You have to do more legwork to go to the other section, but currently that doesn't exist at all. So what I've suggested to LinkedIn is where they had the bubbles before for stories, they should be replaced with LinkedIn live audio rooms, similar to that of Twitter Spaces, because people like to browse, they like to see a hallway, they like to feel like, they have the choice to enter a discussion that might appeal to them. And I think if that is happening, I think LinkedIn live audio will be off to the races, because at the moment it's very hard to find the events. They have now within the My Network tab, for people who are familiar with LinkedIn, they do now have audio events, which are in a chronological order, because previously the LinkedIn live audio events were not in a chronological order, and it was a complete mess. And you had to go to the search bar, type in LinkedIn live audio event, and just hope that some sort of events would come up. So they've neatened that up a little bit, but still discoverability is way off. They also need to push out more notifications. So when people go live, much like a Clubhouse, or if you've got the bell on for somebody, you'll get notified. So they're working on notifications, but of course there's sensitivities with that as well, because they have to protect the creators and they need to protect certain people, because certain people may, let's just give a basic example. Let's say you're an employee of a company and you go into an event and it's within work hours, but it's something you're interested in. Is your employer going to be happy with that? And do you want to be visible to them? Not sure. So we've requested to LinkedIn as well, there might be an opportunity for a discrete mode or some mode that if people would like to listen, but also not be potentially visible. So that can protect them from any potential flashback to their employers, which I think is quite important. The other thing as well that LinkedIn needs to do, there's no pinned links. And I think that's a real key miss for LinkedIn, because of the networking opportunities, much like Clubhouse, much like here, you can pin a tweet, you can pin a link. That doesn't exist currently. And there's no in-room communication channels. So there's no way, there's no chat feature, much like LinkedIn has recently released as well. And the way to invite people to your event is very clunky. So you would have thought there would be a detailed filter system where you can filter through, because the whole benefit of having an 800 million strong database in effect is to filter that so you can really target and hit the niche people you want to invite. It's not as advanced as you would like in terms of people you would filter through. And also you have to manually do that. So you get up to 1,000 invites a week as a beta tester to invite people to your events. But who has the time to manually go through, filter, and add 1,000 people to an event? That needs to be automated, or you need to be able to save lists if you do it one time round and re-invite those people. Again, that currently doesn't exist right now.
It's great stuff. I'm loving it. I mean, LinkedIn should put you in charge of this LinkedIn audio. You just like know it all, and you've got great ideas of things they need to do.